Hi, welcome to my home and to my channel. I'm Debbie, and yes, I'm coming from the Pacific Northwest where I live, and I am also offering you a weekly episode on something good about all the generations, the seniors, the Gen Zers, and everybody in between. So come along with me and let's get started.
Woke up this morning feeling fine. There's something special on my mind. Last night I met a new girl in the neighborhood. Whoa, yeah. Something tells me I'm into something good. Something tells me I'm into something. She's the kind of girl who's not too shy. And I can tell I'm her kind of guy. She danced close to me like I hope she would. She danced for me like I hope she would. Something tells me I'm into something good. Something tells me I'm into something. We only danced for a minute or two, and then she stuck close to me the whole night through. Can I be the one in love? For she's everything I've been dreaming of. She's everything I've been dreaming of. I walked her home and she held my hand. I knew it couldn't be just a one night stand. So I asked to see her next week, and she told me I could. I asked to see her and she told me I could. Something tells me I'm into something good. Something tells me I'm into something. Something tells me I'm into something.
Today's episode is very special. It's all about college, back then and now. So let's go over a few of my favorite colleges first. Hi, so usually when I welcome in friends and family to my home, they come through the front hallway, and the first thing they're going to see are my college banners, ones that are very special to me, starting with the one at the very top, which happens to match what I'm wearing today, the University of Arizona Wildcats in Tucson, Arizona. I went to Arizona and graduated from the University of Arizona with a degree in education, my bachelor's degree, in 1974. And from there, I went on to be a teacher. But what are all of these others about? Well, let's start with Ohio State. I grew up in Ohio, Toledo, Ohio, as many of you know, and most of my family and certainly most of my friends all graduated from Ohio State. It was almost a given that if you're from Ohio, no matter where you are, you go to Ohio State. But of course, I was different. I always loved the West. So I ended up at Arizona, but we certainly want to say go Buckeyes anytime we're ever in the Ohio region. Which brings us down to the nemesis of Ohio State, which is the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. Why on earth would I put these two rival teams together? Well, just to get things shook up a little bit. But honestly, we do have family members, and you know who you are if you're watching, and some of my friends also who decided to go to Ann Arbor, Michigan. I used to spend a lot of time in Ann Arbor, Michigan, because those of you that are from my tri-state area, Ohio, Michigan, and all of that, know that we're just over the border to Ann Arbor. And I remember going to the Ann Arbor Street Art Fairs and hanging around at the university there. I spent a winter there as well. And so Ann Arbor is very much like Eugene, Oregon. The layout, the downtown type campus, and the exceptional grades that you need to get in, they're very similar, which is why I now go down to the University of Oregon and the Ducks, because this is where I've lived happily and blissfully for 7 years. And I'm so proud to say, go Ducks. Finally, we get to my hometown where I was born and raised, Toledo, Ohio, where they hail the University of Toledo Rockets. Rockets. The name Rockets sounds so old-fashioned, but in the days of space race, we started out with Rockets, and I guess it's still a very choice and cool name. So that's why when you first come into my home, that's what you're greeted with. But of course, living in Eugene, we always refer to Go Ducks. And that's it. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode. In fact, today it happens to be season 1, episode 5. And just like I said at the very first episode when I started this, I often will invite a guest to join me on a particular topic. And today's topic today happens to be, let's see if some of you seniors remember this when you started college. What's your major? What's your sign? That seemed to be what we would ask when we first came to college many, many decades ago. So as you can see, I'm wearing my University of Arizona shirt. I have a very special guest with me, a living, breathing, real live University of Oregon student who is going to speak with me today about the college experience, mine in my day and hers today. And I'll let Shelby introduce herself. And here we go.
Hi, my name is Shelby. I am Debbie's editor. So I take the videos, I edit them, I post them, and I help run her channel. And I'm also a second year journalism student at University of Oregon. And I'm so excited to be here today and to jump right into the conversation. So,
Sounds good.
yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your growing up, where you came from, and how you ended up deciding on your major and deciding on Oregon.
When I was about 13, I moved from Kentucky to Los Angeles, California. And I think that changed my life a little bit because I got a taste of the West Coast and what it was like to live out west. And I moved back to Tennessee and then eventually back to Kentucky. And I was like, for college, I want to move back to the West Coast. And I applied to a bunch of schools out here. Basically, those were the only schools I applied to besides a school in my hometown. And I landed on University of Oregon.
So she's got beautiful long hair. I told her to put it back so we could see her Oregon, but now she can put it in front and show you. I'm so envious. I wish my hair would be this long right now, but that's a story for another day. Tell us a little bit about the University of Oregon's journalism department. I think they call it is it SJOC?
SOJC.
SOJC, that I need help. Okay, tell us a little bit about that.
So the SOJC stands for School of Journalism and Communication, and there are four majors. There is journalism, public relations, advertising, and media studies. I am a Super J major, which means I am a journalism student, and there's so many opportunities that they offer to students. There's a multitude of publications that you can join. I actually work there. We have this thing called the J Cage. It is where you can check out equipment. We offer video cameras, photo cameras,
Wow.
audio equipment, drones, lighting, all the equipment you could need to shoot something. And yeah, we also have this help desk that I also work at where you teach students how to use the equipment that the J School offers. And we have so many amazing professors who have been journalists their whole life, who now help run the program. So yeah, I really love
It
it.
sounds like and you're in your sophomore year, am I correct? Okay, it's
Yes.
now, see, it sounds to me, and I'm comparing this to my time when I was at University of Arizona as an undergraduate in the College of Education, because I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. But it sounds like you have more hands-on experience than I ever did, or my classmates ever did, because often those of us that, for instance, went into education, we didn't have any hands-on experience until our senior year. I remember student teaching. Maybe some of you that graduated with an education degree remember going out into the field, or those of you that maybe took a junior year abroad, but there was very little entrepreneurial opportunity in my day, whereas it sounds like now you have ways to be able to not only hone your craft while you're learning, but also make a little side income, some side gigs, so to speak. Can you tell me about that as far as a little bit of side work that you might be able to get, or those that you're interested in to pursue?
Yeah, so if you work for a publication, so they have the School of Journalism, like major newspaper is called the Daily Emerald. So, and that's like independent from the university, so they can report on what's happening on the university and not be like affiliated with it. So there's that, and they have they have a bunch of journalists working for them, and it's all student run. And there's magazines, like there's a fashion magazine called Align.
Really?
Yeah.
I gotta look that one up. That sounds like fun. What else do they have?
They have something called Duck TV. So it's like, I think it's about sports. It's all like news broadcasts. So they have like a control room and then students
Oh,
who like speak and run the news.
okay.
And then there's also, they have a magazine called Ethos, which is more like feature stories and focuses on, I think it's more about like diversity and inclusion, I think.
Okay, that's
So they do a lot of stories on those kind of topics.
if I'm wrong, are you the class of 2026?
Yes,
That's
I am.
you. Oh my God. And
Yes.
I was 1974. Well, think of that. But you know what? It sounds like you're going to be so well prepared once you graduate in, whatever it is, June of 2026, to go right
Mhm.
out there. Does the university provide any way to be able to also give you references or help you land your first jobs, or how does that work? Do you know anything about that yet?
So I think that they offer a lot of like internships.
Back in my day, we were excited to be in college. And of course, being a college student, there's a lot of fun involved in that too. But we didn't have as many preparation opportunities. You kind of had to go your own way, and they would have a guidance counselor, but you basically were, sent out with your diploma and get a job, hopefully. In fact, you brought up something interesting because I remember, since this is an episode about comparing then and now, I remember that I also came as a student at Arizona from out of state, from Ohio. And yes, it was expensive. I think my father, I remember saying that my junior year at Arizona was more expensive than all 4 years put together because I was also a sorority girl. And so I was in a sorority. Because when I lived in Tucson going to the University of Arizona, and especially at the beginning of the year, like September, it could be 110. Well, back then, I don't think it was quite 110.
Wow.
It wasn't climate change quite then. But in the 70s, this is before ozone, before we knew when ozone was happening, but we didn't know about it. So
Mhm.
my sorority sisters and I, we would take all our classes in the morning and be done with our classes by noon, and then we'd all sit out with our ready for this sun reflectors and get a savage tan and lay out for the rest of the afternoon in front of or behind the sorority place where we lived, and we just were constantly in the sun. And I haven't
Well,
spoken.
I'm jealous of
Yeah,
that.
well, it was wonderful, and we all looked very tan. But this is before the days of ozone, and so now I go to a dermatologist on a regular basis to make sure that nothing bad happened. But that was the way of life back then.
Mhm.
And so, being in a desert environment, I did like it. And I have a lot of funny stories about being there and the friends that I made. But my senior year was really the meat of the nut as far as really what I was prepared to do moving forward as an elementary teacher. And I love the fact that your students, your group of journalism students, and also just students across the board, have many hands-on opportunities, which is fantastic.
Same. I'm
It's
very grateful.
all I had to do was make good grades. Don't shame the family. Back then we're talking about, in fact, some of us sorority girls back in 1973, 74, we used to hitchhike. And of course, my parents never knew, but back then, yes, society was a little nicer. It wasn't as scary as it is today. I would never recommend that. Don't try that at home. But the thing is, my sorority sisters and I, to get around, we would just put our thumb out and hitchhike in Tucson, where I lived. And usually, the worst thing that would happen is that we would get picked up by a group of hippies smoking their weed, with the long hair in their VW van with the flowers, and take us from one point to another. But I do remember that I never had a car all through college, but hitchhike, bike. Oh, that's another question I want to ask you now that I'm thinking of it. How do you get around campus? Because I noticed one of our mutual friends,
Mhm.
and in the journalism school, takes these looks like electric bikes, and it's almost like in the
Mhm.
Netherlands. And I've been to the Netherlands where they grab a bike, they're all over the place, they ride it and they put it
Yeah,
somewhere else.
it's very similar.
Explain how you get around.
So I my roommates have cars, so if I do, like if I need to get here, for example, I can use one of their cars, but if not, I could also take a bus. Luckily, the buses, I'm pretty sure it's free because I've never paid for it, but I'm pretty sure that the bus is free here in Eugene, so there's public transportation. Anyone can get on and ride from one stop to another. So I could get on the bus here. I also, yesterday, my friends and I did exactly what Debbie just mentioned. We, there's,
You didn't hitchhike. I hope
no,
not.
no,
Oh,
no,
no,
the
no.
bike.
Mom and Dad, don't watch this.
It was a bike, and they're called Peace Health bikes. And what you do is you like scan a QR code. You download this app, you scan the QR code, and then it unlocks the bike for you.
Which
So,
brings up another question. When you have back-to-back classes, do you have enough time to get across? Let's say if one class is in one department and then you're across, because it's not a small university, it's a major spread out university. Do
mhm.
they give you enough time to get to your next class?
I think that as far as universities go, Oregon does have like a decent sized campus, but it's not super spread out. Like the buildings are close together.
Or do you share an apartment? Are you in a dorm? Where are you now?
So last year I lived in a dorm on the edge of campus, which now they found out that there's like a sinkhole underneath it. So
Oh, a
it's
sinkhole?
yeah, so
No!
it's shut down. But I was fortunate enough to have two roommates. I lived in like a triple. So one of my roommates was from Texas and one was from Colorado, and that's the other thing I like about the university is that there's a lot of people from out of state. So I've met people from like all over America. My roommates now, I live with one roommate that I had last year, and then these two friends that we made. So I have three roommates right now. But they lived in, if you've seen Animal House.
Oh, who hasn't? That came out. We saw it in the movie theaters when it came out in the late 70s. That's
Well, the
hilarious.
opening shot is Carson Hall, which is where my friends lived, and it's actually very funny. We were watching Animal House in Carson Hall.
Wait a minute. They filmed that portion here in Eugene?
Mhm.
I didn't even
Yeah,
know that.
it was filmed.
Did you know that?
It was filmed in Eugene.
It was filmed in
If you
Eugene.
didn't know, yeah, it was filmed on University of Oregon's campus, and I think Craig lives in Animal House. I think Craig and Eli live
Really?
in like the actual Animal House, like where the movie was shot.
Craig and Eli, she's mentioning, happen to be other students that work with me. They're so wonderful. They're very helpful, and they're not in any way, shape, or form a bunch of animals either. They're not. They're not John Belushi's. Believe me. You were mentioning, or at the beginning, we were talking about what's your major, what's your sign, because when I
Mhm.
started my freshman year, so we're talking in 1971 or thereabouts, that was the tagline when you would meet somebody cute or you'd be at a freshman mixer, as they used to call
Aw.
it. You'd say, "What's your major?" In other words, what are you studying? And
Mhm.
by the way, there were a lot of students in my time in the 70s that had what they called an undeclared major. They weren't sure. So they were taking classes like Psych 101 or
Mhm.
sociology or just whatever, PE. I mean, I don't know what, but the point is, not everybody was as clear to their major. And what happened was they started school hoping to discover where their strengths were. For myself, I knew since I was a very little girl that I wanted to be a teacher. So
That's
my
awesome.
senior year in high school, when you go to your guidance counselor in high school before you go away after you graduate, there I never had to struggle with what do I want to do, what do I want to be, what are my strengths. I also took some journalism classes too, so I had
That's
that
awesome.
not as a major, or not even as a minor, but I took some classes when I was able to add on and learned a lot about communications. But the world of communications today is so completely different because of
Mhm.
technology. And the other thing I wanted to mention about, besides what's your major, what's your sign? Because back then, also across the board, people would say, what's your sign? Meaning, when were you born? Are you an Aquarius? Are you
Mhm.
Sagittarius? Oh man, that's so cool, far out, and all that. Are there any taglines like when you go to I'm sure you don't call them mixers anymore, but when you go to socials or you're meeting people for the first time, is there something that, instead of just saying what's up, or just
Mhm.
social media, just like hey with little emojis, is there lingo that you guys use that you can share with my senior viewers?
If like me with like a cute guy or something, or like a guy and a girl are talking, or
Mhm.
just someone who you strike up a combo and like you think they're attractive, you might say like what's your snap, which is
Oh, okay. I got to remember. What's your snap? What does
which
that mean?
is so there's this it's has to do with technology. There's this app called Snapchat, which
Oh, I've
you
heard of that.
yes, so it's
Okay.
a very popular app because the whole point of it. It's not like Instagram where you like post things. The whole point is communication with your friends.
Where,
Mm-hmm.
this brings up one more thing because I know we're going to run out of time. I could go on for like 2 episodes like this. It's so fun. But I was on campus the other day, and actually, it made me feel so much younger just being among everybody and seeing the what's
Mm-hmm.
going on. But I was also I found out about a class that seems to be so popular. There's a waiting list, and it's called the confidence class, having to do with building up your confidence. And at first I thought, well, why would people need that? But then I realized, my goodness, this generation now is so involved with online, on their phone, social media, and not actually being able to be out in the real world in front of real people in real time. And especially since the after the lockdown, we all of us, no matter what the age is, we need to build back up our confidence to speak to
Mm-hmm.
others because we feel like we don't have the skills. Tell me about this confidence class, if that's the name of it, and why it's become so popular.
A lot of it has to do with like public speaking. So
Oh,
being able
okay.
to like stand up in front of your peers and not only like present something, but being able to talk to people about like if you're like going through something or just sharing things like that, like having more confidence with communicating with people basically.
As soon as you said that, I remember when you said public speaking. What they called it in my day, and many of my viewers, was speech 101, speech 102, speech 201. In other words, it was the same thing, but we didn't have social media. So we already knew how to talk to people, but how to talk to people on a college level and beyond
Mm-hmm.
in the real world. But we used to call it speech. So really, its confidence means public speaking.
It also has to do with like being authentic. I feel like a lot of the times social media can be very fake, or it's like a highlight reel, like you're only posting like the fun times you've had and you're not
That's
posting
right.
like just
Oh,
what you're doing on a daily basis. So he has students use social media to like post what they're doing on a daily basis, or just like a post that's more authentic and like
oh,
more true to
so glad you brought
who
that
they
up.
are, so
Oh,
that like social media can be like a little less fake.
I am so glad you brought that up because, again, comparing the generations, I was involved on Facebook for quite a while, and I know a lot of my viewers still love to post with
Mhm.
their grandchildren, all that, and their cruises, grandchildren and cruises, and food. Okay, all three of which I am not involved in. No grandkids, don't care for cruises, and food. It's like okay. But anyway, but what I'm saying is that I started to get a little bit down, not because anybody wanted me to feel down, but because everything looked so happy, and it was always
Yeah.
just the good stuff, like, oh, these are my grandchildren, oh, look what we're eating now, look at the cruise we're going, and God bless people that can go on that, and of course you want
Mhm.
to share that. But it's not as authentic because at times, if you don't balance it out with other things that you go through, and it can give a skewed perception of
Mhm.
what's really going on, which is why I decided after a while just to go off of Facebook and just be more authentic in real time with real people, and not post as much anymore, which was just my personal opinion of how I wanted to do that. Wow, we've gone so far over time. I can't believe I should have turned this into 2 episodes, but it's been such a pleasure. First of all, that
Thank you
Shelby,
for having me
yeah, of
on.
course, Shelby is a real life student who helps me. She's going to be taking a break over summer, which of course everybody usually does. So I've got some other students from the university that are working with me in. Oh, you know what? Before we finish this, just give us a little overview of Common Studios, because I know some of my viewers, in fact,
Yes.
most of my viewers, don't know what CES Common Studios means. So go ahead and pitch it.
So, Common Studios is this student run startup business that I currently work for. And it's a business where creatives can join. So, like, anyone who has any skills at all with like technology. So, like, it can be anything from videography to web design to writing, communicating, like making advertisements. I shoot videos and edit them for Debbie. So, like, Debbie is one of our clients.
Yay.
And you contact, instead of trying to contact like freelancers to do work for you, you can contact Common Studios, who has like a pool of creatives, and they select creatives. So let's say you wanted an ad for like your business or app or something. They'll select a student who has made ads before, who knows how to make them, and they'll put you in contact with them, and then they can create whatever you need them to create.
In
So
fact, when I first met with Common Studios with the group of students that as a startup student-led company while they're going to school full time, it's really amazing. I didn't know what the term creatives mean, and I'm sure some of you that are my age don't know either. In fact, it kind of confused me. Like, what is your job description? And I was told, well, we're all creatives. Well, I love to create, but what does that mean? It's because they have the option to use their strengths and their abilities in just what Shelby explained to help someone. And in my case, I did not have and still don't have the technology skills with lighting and editing and all that. I can certainly speak and reflect on my life, but the Common Studios provides me as a person in the community to be able to bring my vision to life. And they're so good at it and so excited. And they get a little money to eat every week. So it's also very helpful too. This has been such a pleasure. I'm going to give you a big fat hug.
yeah.
I want long hair just like this. I used to wear my hair like this. I bet some of you remember. Thank you so much for today.
Yeah,
And
thank you for having me
now
on.
we're going to get to work editing this, okay? Have a good rest of your week, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.